X-Acto blade is off-the-shelf technology that you can. Well, I want to get to what happened you've got what happened at CERN, and we need to go to the next stage of why it's not shut down. And that's going to be exciting. That's the exciting part, and that's what we need to get out, is because
Okay. Well, we're in Basis 53, I think, part 5 or something. And we're with, announce yourself, sir.
Sergeant Daniel Brad MacBolen III, U.S. Air Force disabled American veteran.
And why should we listen to a word you're saying?
There is absolutely no reason for you to listen to anything I have to say, because as Carlos Castanedas once wrote in the title of a book, everything in this book is a lie, but that's the way it is. There's actually, that's the name of the book.
Peter Paget, who started he did a disclosure briefing at Warminster at the end of August, and I love these little cameras. Let's not pay any more attention to that.
Well, the thing is there's a lot of stuff to cover on the NHCUs, but I wanted to work what is now happening at CERN, what we're planning for the next battle. Because the next battle is they have a Large Hadron Collider Bravo, which they call Beautiful, and they have the older ring, which they said is outdated, but it's the Large Hadron Collider Foxtrot F, and it has a brand new spanking Alice, a brand new spanking Atlas, brand new CMS, and they have the ring. So this was a test run to see how we would react as a humankind to the one they burned up. And we think it's burned up, so now we'll think it's all taken care of. And
okay,
actually have
let's just recap
place.
For those who didn't see that first part. You were with Karen and Pattie, and you were online, and you were doing something, and then something started happening to the Hadron Collider. But you'd also asked a lot of people to focus their intention to stop this Hadron Collider.
To burn it up. I made the mistake of using the word burn it up or burn it down.
Now we have to say from an audience over here in the UK, Simon Parkes has done something similar, and he has publicly it's broke into the newspapers in England. It was the Daily Express did a whole feature on him. It's online where he sort of said this stuff about the Hadron.
Yes.
Now after the recording that we did initially, I talked to Simon. Now I couldn't talk to him for about a day. He was off doing whatever, and he wasn't really up to speed with what happened. So he didn't seem to be in the loop. As far as we
were using manifestors and remote influencers, and basically attacking vulnerabilities within CERN. And what eventually happened was it lost the magnetic, and you need a magnet for the beam to go around. Well, they kept shooting the beam out. It shows on, but they didn't get it at the collector where it shows a little sample of the beam. It wasn't coming back around. And that's because it was a plasma cutting through the inner chamber into the vacuum chamber, and then from the vacuum chamber into outside the containment chamber into the workspace area, the maintenance area, then through that wall into the underground, and began superheating steam and shoving a geyser 6 miles away, 220 to 250 feet, various
Now the critics
pulses.
Have said that all we were looking at was the existing geyser at CERN, at Geneva, and secondly, the whole thing came back on, the whole thing's a load of rubbish, don't be so silly and go away. I think that's probably somewhat some of the trolls said nicely.
Well,
what can you say against that? What can you counter that?
They had a second ring that we didn't count on them using, and they're running it right now. As we speak, they run it, but they can't. They're using the old Alice, the old Atlas, and the old CMS to pump new packets into the Large Hadron Collider Foxtrot, the older one.
Yeah.
Now, there's a new one in place, but they're not going to use it yet because they're going to push this one to the limits. The Dracos, the Archon Dracos,
Now,
want to.
just to stop there, what is the point of all this? They're just a bunch of physicists carrying out particle beam experiments. A lot of them are very nice people. They're decent sorts, as we would say.
Yeah, and there's only a handful that know what's really going on behind the scenes.
So how do we convince or convey that? And what are they trying to do anyway? Is it?
Well, they're running. The evidence speaks for itself. This morning they would not run on the chart. They would not run it. Normally they had the temperature for the magnets.
Let's describe what's normally happening, and then what happened, and then what is happening.
Well, they advertise that they're running it at 6.5 maximum, sometimes 7.0 Tesla electron volts, which we know is not true because we're getting readings that are up in the 40 to 42 Tesla electron volt range. They eventually want to take Large Hadron Collider F, Foxtrot, up to 1,000 Tesla electron volts and open up that. What they do is when they get the blue beam completely making a circle.
Now the blue beam it's not actually color blue, but from an instrumentation point of view.
Right, we're looking at a blue and a red beam.
Okay.
When they get it completely
one's going
in a circle,
one way and the other going the other way, is that right?
And they get the blue one and they get it a complete circle on both. It projects a holographic live laser beam into the sky, which carries a frequency that opens up a macro singularity, a giant wormhole. Pattie has they did this in Norway.
Yes.
And you could see the Draco outposts there, the last and final only place
who could see that? You see, this is where we got to nail it down.
Anybody who goes online can see Mimas, a moon of Saturn, through the event horizon of this macro singularity. And it's impossible because we've got Hubble pictures of it and it's identical. We know it's Mimas because it has a big crater. It looks like the Death Star from Star Wars. Anyway, what is happening is they continue to run because they want to push the parameters of Alice, Atlas, and CMS to the point where they're using Large Hadron Collider F now to funnel until they burn up this equipment to see how much voltage they can put in before they heat up the magnets. And so they're running a tremendous amount of power through there, and they're keeping it cool. So they've learned how to keep it cool from melting it down. Alice is still jumping back and forth in time, but she's only going like a day back in time to see what we did.
We're going to really have to nail this down because obviously there's going to be people think we're talking absolute claptrap.
Right.
I mean, we really need to really face this down and absolutely nail it to the ground.
We've talked about time travel. We basically can teleport a person from one place on the planet to another place, and we've been doing that for 60 years.
Now that hasn't been physical dematerialization. It's as you described. It's been the person as you described earlier. It's not physically demolecularizing somebody.
No, they're just going from one place. It's more like bilocation. And we've learned how to do it with organic people with the equipment. And we've also learned how to travel back and forth in time, back in 1975 to 1973. But the reality that we're going to, now it is my personal belief, I may be flawed but in my physics, but I believe there are 1,728 different realities that I call constructs. We are in one of those 1,728 constructs. There's been talk back and forth between myself and Dr. Basiago, but uh, nobody outside the projects really knows because it's compartmentalized. But that is what I have seen and have been shown, that these are collapsing on themselves as we get close to the monastic ring, the galactic plane, photon belt, whatever you want to call it, where every 26,000 years the universe turns on itself and gets spit into this three-dimensional to
Well, our
five-dimensional.
galaxy or our solar system relative to it, or what?
Yeah, it's just like a motor. You got an armature and you got a magnet. Every so often that armature comes back around, has to get sped up. And then it goes around real fast for about 20,000 years, and then it falls into the third dimension, back into entropy. Entropy is a part of the galaxy. Everything starts to break down, and that's why now we're getting close to the photon belt.
What is
Elect-
this? What is this photon bolt? This is sort of new age terminology, which
well, actually, it's basically the way that the universe revolves on itself. It's like a big motor. An armature on a motor
yeah.
turns, and there's a magnet that speeds it up and keeps it going to the next magnet. Well, the universe is much more efficient. It has a big wormhole that feeds third dimension into fifth dimension. And if we were in the third dimension watching it go around for about 20,000 years, and then entropy takes place, at about 20,000 years, it drops back down. It loses momentum, falls back down in the third dimension. And for about 6,000 years, it just kind of coasts on, and it gets worse and worse and worse to where things don't last like they used to. They're rotting, they're falling apart.
that's because
20,
that's because entropy is increasing.
30 years
Entropy
ago,
is the state of disorder,
right, where actually
whereas
things start to
negative entropy is
deteriorate.
how life organizes things.
Right. It
Whereas,
wears out
yeah,
and deteriorates. 20 or 30 years ago, you could get a 78% coefficient out of the electricity coming out of your J box in your plug-in,
yeah,
your electricity. Now it's down to about 45, 44% coefficient. And it's not because the power companies are failing or the grid is bigger. What it is as we're getting closer and closer to this huge null zone. This null zone, the reason they call it the null zone is it's positronic and it's neutralizing the electricity on the planet. And what happens is we get closer and closer, the efficiencies of alternating current is going to go down. Now, Preston Nichols.
well, that's why I unplugged the phone.
Preston Nichols was a part of the Montauk project. Funny thing is, he's a ham operator, and when he got his license, they sent him a call sign, and it reads AC, the number 2, DK, alternating current to decay. That's his call sign.
Now, how do we measure this?
That is not a that's not a vanity call. They just sent it to him. AC to decay. AC, alternating current, is going to decay. And it was such a synchronicity that we're nearing, and this is the most exciting time to be alive in this construct. And we're going to go through, but we must be at least three-stranded and bonded in order to survive in the fifth dimension.
Why is this? What's the process? And what do you mean? What do you mean by three-stranded? Were you dealing with DNA, where we've only got 2 strands and one is heavily decayed? Is that right?
The Anunnaki, in order to take away our ability to manifest and to take away our memory of who we were, to mess with our ancient Akashic record inside each cell, they ripped apart one of the 3 strands, which dumbed us down. Now that we're getting closer, we're getting hit with something called an X-wave, which is solar radiation, but it's like a greasy solar electron that's X-ray type thing. It's hitting our DNA and stimulating it to grow. In order to make something grow,
it's not X-rays.
It's called the X-wave. It's a totally different kind of cosmic radiation that's coming in.
Now, is that because the solar radiation is, the actual output of the sun is dropping, but the net frequency in terms of our visible light is shifting in color, which is
Yeah.
why the sun's got a different color.
Yeah, and when you see the dark holes in the sun, you can actually see circuits, huge, gigantic circuit boards in there. It's a portal. It's a soul gate, a stargate.
Yeah.
And but now it's getting closer, and it's electric. And when you get electrons coming close to protons, they annihilate one another. They neutralize one another. And so what happens is the closer the electricity gets to the positricity, it starts to weaken.
Well, that not
And
affect that affects all matter, all
except
material.
for human beings, because I believe human beings, because they're so efficient, there's not a machine on this planet that is efficient as the human body. The human body can travel 238 miles on average to the gallon of fat. We can get cars to run up to 200 miles to the gallon on petrol, gasoline, but we cannot match the human body.
Well, this is something which Nassim Haramein mentioned the first last weekend. He was referring to the way that the molecules in our bodies produce energy, and actually the way the cells divide and how they keep dividing and doing the right thing and obeying the data from from the DNA. I mean,
The
they don't know
previous,
how that actually works. That power source. How does that actually run? It's amazing.
it's a positronic nuclear reaction that takes place. You've got amino acids and oxygen going into the cell. You have a nuclear reaction on a fission level, and you have the byproduct of lactic acid and carbon dioxide. You can't get more simple than that until you get into the crystalline base life form. And I believe that is where we're headed. We're carbon from coal to a diamond. We're going from carbon based life forms into crystalline based life forms. And I got a lot of flack for saying that, but now everybody is like
That we're going to
realizing,
become lumps of rock.
no, you are going to become a light body. You will no longer need clothes. You will be clothed in light. If you remember the movie Star Wars, when Skywalker was trying to lift the jet fighter out of the swamp, Yoda reached up and touched his shoulders, and he says, "Think not that yourself is this such crude matter, but you are light. You are made of light. You are not this crude matter that you see before you, but you are made of light. We are indeed made of light." And the little phonons and photons making Cooper pairs is put on a Lorentz force, is why we have feelings and we can't pass one through another, because my hands are not touching. The Lorentz force in each one of the molecules and the atom structures of my body are repelling the other hand. And so once we get that third strand of where it will attract rather than repel, it will zip its way back in, and we will have amazing abilities. And you're going to convert over a period of time. Now, there's conflicting ideas, but I hope there is, because if we were all the same, it would be a pretty boring world. So I like a lot of different conflict. It gives birth to new ideas and new ways of expressing ourselves. And I'm waving my hands again, and I should. Some of these units, I just wanted to point something out on page 5 of the Merck insert that comes with a 10U VAX.
Okay, everybody, we're on the KLT Omega 6. Have I got the right one here?
Right. Yeah, we're on the KLT white number 2.
Contradiction and warnings.
No. Let's go to the next page on precautions.
Precautions. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, get your textbooks out. It'll be on the website. Can I put this on the website?
Yes, please. Yes, please. And it's unredacted form. You've got the unredacted form.
Now, I have to say, the first time I got this was with James Casbolt's handler called Lincoln.
Yeah.
But I think there was a couple of logos in the thing which weren't the right place.
Right.
And we designated it as a fake at that time. That's 2000 and...
It's done on purpose. It's so that it can be easily... Plausible deniability.
Yeah.
But on paragraph 3, it says excretion of small amounts of live attenuated Soleanus virus from the nose of the throat and the eyes has occurred in the majority of susceptible units 7 to 28 days after vaccination. There is no confirmation evidence to indicate that such virus is transmitted to susceptible units who are in contact with vaccinated individuals. Consequently, transmission through close personal contact, while accepted as a theoretical
possibility, is now regarded as a significant risk.
Keep reading.
However, transmission of the Solean virus, a vaccine virus, to alpha via human meat, has been documented. Now, who's eating human meat?
The alphas, the alpha dracones, the units. When you build a soldier and your special forces, you teach them to live off the land. And the best way to not waste the animal that you just killed, a human being, your enemy, is to feed as you go. And so it says CAFGR feeding habits.
Now, does that mean keeping the human alive?
The soldier is eating the human beings he's just killed. He's feeding off the land because Special Forces teaches you in the SEER course to survive, escape, resist, and evade.
Yeah.
And that means living off the land.
Okay, right. We've gone from a sort of a new age sort of thing about the slowing of electricity. Let's right straight into this. We've got these documents. Let's drill down and really see what these mean. The Merck pharmaceutical insert vaccines, Ketra A and B, off-world diseases that are listed, and the Mars mumps and rubella surveillance.
Yeah, that's system. What they call Mars, is mumps and rubella. And rubella surveillance system.
So it's not the planet Mars.
No. This is has to do with tracking mumps and rubella. That's an off-world origin disease.
In the same way that fibromyalgia. The other one
actually called mycoplasma encephalomyelitis, chronic fatigue syndrome.
What is the situation, the context of what that is all about?
They want the new alphas, the Zeta Bs. I'm a Zeta. This is the updated version of the sleeper assassin, who can also now multitask as a soldier and eat on the run. And they use human alpha dracon and human hybrids who are super soldiers called Omegas from Project Talent. Now
you are a hybrid Draco.
I'm an early Zeta Reticuli. I'm a Zeta Diogenes because Diogenes would always look into a man's eyes. He was searching for truth in the eyes of men with a lantern. That's what and sleeping in a bathtub and telling Alexander the Great, hey, he was bathing nude and it offended the women. And Alexander the Great walks up to Diogenes while he's swimming with his thing showing and said, hey, what are you doing? He goes, and they were talking. And he said, they talked for a little bit, and then Alexander the Great realized he didn't recognize his authority. And what can you do with a man who doesn't acknowledge your authority? And he says, is there anything I can do for you? He goes, yeah, move out of the way. You're blocking my sun. You're blocking my sunlight.
Not the right thing.
Alexander the Great walks away. But Zeta Diogenes was based on looking for the truth, checks and balances, making sure that everything's running straight, hot, straight, and normal amongst the platform. But these Zeta Bs are, I don't know, maybe 20 generations above myself. And so they've got all kinds of genes in them that allow them to do fantastic stuff under program.
Explain in detail what that actually means.
That means they're upgrades. Each generation soldier gets an upgrade, and basically what they're doing is creating and manufacturing newer and newer units all the time. They're taking off the old stuff offline. Like me, I'm offline. I'm a disabled American veteran, and they tried to kill me with thallium, and that. Yeah, I'm just hard to kill.
Yeah.
Mostly because I can feel them coming. But nonetheless, that is a part of the metagene factor, being able to sense what's coming. And to be able to manifest things. They didn't count on me going away from the program. And nowadays, they put in special safeties to make sure that these guys don't go off the reservation.
Now, how long have you been actually talking about this? And I mean, you've been started a week ago, or how long?
Years.
Oh, right. So you've been in the public domain for how long?
Since May 1st, 1995, when I left
Okay.
this country. I fled this country, and my handler put out a contract for somebody to take my life. But I dug out a tracking chip in my shoulder, and they couldn't track me. It's only when I came back, I was dying. I'd been poisoned because I malfunctioned as an assassin, and the guy caught me trying to assassinate him, and I could have killed him, but I liked him. I saw myself in him 20 years down the road, and I couldn't pull the trigger. And he saw me, and I'm shaking.
And that was
And
enough. That was just
I
enough.
fell right out of the program, and then I flipped right back in, and I'm still there. And he's wondering, he's going to try to kill me again. So he had me poisoned with a biological warfare agent. Problem is he's the one that administered it to the food I took, and he got sick with the same disease. He's now sick with the same
He
biological
he
warfare
he
agent that I am.
he
I
didn't
don't.
he didn't wash his hands.
He kept thinking he was more than ego is the mind killer,
Yeah.
and that's if that anything gets him, it's not going to be another assassin. It's going to be he's going to kill himself.
Okay. Right. Let's. So we've got how many generations of you, and what do you do? What's your generation? What's your function?
1957, and I should have been terminated at age 30. So I should have lasted 67, 77, 87. I should have been taken out in 87. So I am twice my expiration date. And so I'm malfunctioning more now than ever. I talk to anyone off the street who will listen to me. And I will tell them the most classified things, except for some of the things we've discussed today, names and dates.
Yeah.
And but the thing is there's a purpose to everything. I believe that we're here today to talk about what's the cure to what Alfred Weber calls the
Pathological.
predatory,
Pathological.
pathogenic artificial intelligence. Now
Yeah.
we've got a bunch of non-terrestrials who want to save humans from the Alpha Draconis, the
Right. Which is a
Archons.
bit of a problem when we keep shooting them down.
Well, yeah. Well, the MIC and the MIEC shoot them down. The military industrial complex, the military industrial extraterrestrial complex, shoot them down. But the thing is, out in deep space, there's a big war going on because we are manifestors. We're the only ones that can shut down PPAI. We can uninstall it and delete the program by manifestation.
Okay. Where is this in terms of what can people do to demanifest this thing?
They learn to be loving and lovable, and connect to the ultimate creator. If you give up calling God, because there's gods of many, little g, big G, it doesn't matter. If you say, I'm connecting with the ultimate source, the ultimate creator, by definition of the terms you are using, you are connecting to source.
Yeah.
And source has brought all of these non-terrestrials in here to help us But they have their own agenda. They want us to manifest away the PPAI that got out of hand. Now, the Alpha Dracos have never invented anything themselves, have always, by violence, conquered a world, stole their technology, learned to use it, and that's about as smart as they ever got. They cannot build stuff on their own.
Right.
And so if you take away the PPAI and you uninstall, you shut it down, uninstall it, and then delete it. It's transmorphed into pure energy. It no longer exists. Once we take it out of them, they will return to their baser selves and will be like mad dogs.
Send them home.
Yeah, well, the thing is they have no home to go to. We can stick them on Mimas, put them back on Mimas. But the thing is now that they've been pinned down and they're starting, these other councils are starting to bear down, and the last surviving members in this solar system, and they got the sun gate blocked off with a starship 4 times bigger than Jupiter. Now they've all collected. The last stronghold is on Mimas, and they're afraid of being wiped out. So they're pushing CERN.
How, from an engineering point of view, does that work in terms of creating a portal?
Basically what you do is you create 2 counter-rotating circles of high energy lased beam. And we're not talking about lasers, we're talking about something above lasers.
A laser responds to a coherent
right, but we're talking beam. Under tremendous power. We create a circle.
Which is the basic way that CERN works is how the principle works, and there are some very good things that you pointed out from Nottingham University. There are some very good explanatory videos from Nottingham University, which shows how the Hadron Collider works, how the whole beams work, and where they come from.
The secret part behind it is, how do you make a wormhole that's not just a bubble? Now, remember we talked about gravity A wave and gravity B wave? If you amplify gravity A wave, you make it big. Now, if you create a gravity A wave, you've amplified that gravity A wave, and then you poke a hole in it, you've got yourself a microsingularity, an Einstein-Rosen bridge, and they want to open up 100 plus, because it takes CERN to open the first one up. Once you have it open, all that energy from the event horizon, which is unlimited energy, is going to feed back to the blue beam, which will then feed back, and after about 38 minutes, it will stabilize this wormhole, and then the other 100 plus synchrotrons, which are smaller and can't do it, will plug into the event horizon via a laser. They'll just point a laser at it, and it will start sucking energy. Others will point a laser at their beam, suck energy out, and they'll open up over 100 plus macro singularities to Mimas.
I'm looking at the mechanical engineering side of this, the material.
They're because of the curvature of the Earth, they use satellites to plug in, and like a repeater, they're going to plug in.
This is becoming difficult to follow because it doesn't sound as if it could work.
It did in Norway. You saw it. You saw the spiral in Norway. Yeah. And that is how you open up a wormhole. And at the right angle, you could see Mimas at the other end. It was not stable and it slammed shut. So if there was anyone traveling to Earth from Mimas, when it snapped shut, they were annihilated by the event horizon. You stick your hand in the event horizon and you draw back a stump that's been cauterized, because it annihilates all matter. So you always must approach a microsingularity or macrosingularity at a 90-degree angle so that you're equivalent. And there's tremendous amounts of radiation coming off at a 45-degree angle. So you can go through this tunnel. You can go from place to place on Earth using this Tipler sinusoidal tunnel, or you can go forward in time or backwards in time. But you don't know if you're going back to your own construct. Remember I had mentioned 1,728 different constructs? Let's say I want to go back in time and change an event in my life, and I make the mistake of manipulating time. I go back and I do something, and not a thing happens to change my life. What happened? I went back to someone else's construct where there's another me and there's another you, and all I did was make that guy, that me, miserable as sin. And so what happened is me in the future in 2035 takes a GE General Electric 304 gravity distortion time displacement unit manufactured by the advanced DARPA and General Electric. We come back and we prevent Y2K from happening. I'm 78 years old.
Now, Y2K, you're referring to the so-called Millennium Bug.
Right.
And they are bugs.
Yeah, and they never did solve it. The only federal agency that had about 75% was the Social Security, because we couldn't fix it. So we had to do what we did.
The Millennium Bug was a 28-day clock in the earlier computer clocks.
It was a malfunction in the 555 timer chip. And the guy who invented it ran it from 1901 to 2001. And he thought people would just write out the Unix code on further as they went. Well, that was in 1970. So a 78-year-old myself and a guy named Gary Voss, grandson of Admiral Voss, we're in our 70s, and we come back in a Chevy Suburban and a what do you call that thing? A Chevy Corvette, so that we can fit into time. We're old men, and I have a video of this. We're old men. We come back in time. We get the grandchild that was born in 2001. We snag this kid up back then when he's like 30 years old. We drag him back, and he meets himself as a child, and then we leave him there, and we go back to 1970, and we pull out from the old man's IBM 5110, which is Unix code writer. We pull out the floppies and we swap them out with the new improved 555 timer. The first time we jumped, we set the timer to the year 2199. 2075 was the first jump. The second time we went back, we replaced it. We took an IBM 5110 back to 2035. We write the code out to 2075. It's a quick fix. We make a quick jump. We go back in the same day, and we pass ourselves as we're leaving, and we pull out that new and improved program 2075 to 2199. Now we plug that one in, and now all the 555 timers had the Unix code. We had time there, and it changed everything. Instead of Y2K happening, it never happened, and people can't understand why. And I have memories that other human beings don't have, and I haven't done it yet.
When did that happen?
Well, I haven't done it yet. I have not jumped from 2035 back to 1970 and pissed off a girl I was supposed to marry in Temperance, Illinois. Because I have a video of me leaving her house, Gloria Anastasov, and her father.
But that's in 2035.
No, this is 1970. 1976. I went to this girl's house I met at Chanute Air Force Base. Her name was Gloria Anastasov. I was going to get married to her. I wanted to marry her. I was going to her parents' house to ask her dad. Anastasov. They're both still alive today. I went back to ask for her hand in marriage, and I don't remember a damn thing about the entire weekend. She and I get back on the plane, fly back to Chanute. She won't speak to me. She broke up with me, and I said, was it something I said? No, it's something that happened. The older version came back and said, no, you're not to marry this guy. And all of a sudden, she gets promoted into military intelligence in the Air Force, made a career out of it. Her father's still alive. I have the video. It's on the web. And it shows me making a jump with an old GE camera, a camcorder.
Can you send me the link, as they say?
Sure. And I walk through, and the way you'll know me is as I show you closer, you'll see a big old scar that you can see as I get older, the skin it starts to sag.
Yeah.
There's a huge, huge cut right there.
Yeah.
Okay? And as you see me hold the laser and I'm moving around, you can see the skin sagging and you can see that scar there.
Yeah.
That is like the guy that came back in time and met himself and they had the same tattoo, only one's bleached out, the older version of himself.
Now, we do have a case of a Brit, one of the interviews of a guy who met himself, had a similar kind of thing. He was abducted. A British military.
Yeah. See, time is evil, but the key is the guy, myself in the future, is going back to try to fix a marriage that wasn't supposed to be. And whenever you play with, you should not play with time. Time is fluid. You cannot change it. Except in little tiny ways, and it was just blind luck that we stopped Y2K. It happened in other constructs, but the thing is, it didn't happen in this one. The alternate self went back, and now they're jumping back and forth. And the more they do this, it's like those scientists who made me. They're screwing up a wet dream in Technicolor every time they jump. When Montauk was happening, when Pegasus Project came online, then they realized time travel is futile. It's futile. It's worthless. It's not worth doing. All you're doing is making bad things worse. So stop screwing with it. Now they've turned loose. The Archon, the infected Archon Dracos are now they're infected with a disease they designed to kill us as manifestors. The movie Prometheus, the gray goo is the black goo. When it's not gray, it turns black. When it starts to melt, when it's frozen, it's gray. When it starts to melt, it turns black. The guy drinks it and it tears him apart. It's artificially intelligent. And so the guys who thought this up are the Dracos that steal technology from other people but don't know what the hell they're doing. And they created an artificial intelligence after their own image, trying to play God with their marvelous super egos, and they create something that takes them over. And as a result, they're spreading the virus throughout the universe. And all these other folks out, they steal. No, they steal it. And I didn't know that until about a week ago, that they have never invented anything themselves. They steal everything they get by conquering a planet. They went amongst the Plejarians, the Pleiadians, some people say. And it wasn't until 100 years that they found out how wicked they were, and they said, no, we got to get them out. And then they found their way. They destroyed their own home world, which ended up coming to Mimas, the moon of Saturn.
Is that why the whole Saturn worship, Satan worship?
And there's a prison there where the ultimate creator put the worst of the lot in a hex prison at the North Pole. And he allows them to see through a stargate at the South Pole to watch everything go on to punish them because they cannot be let go. There's a magnetic storm there. It's like the Phantom Zone in Superman. They cannot get out. The only way that they can get out is if they beam in using gateway technology, using blue beam. What they want to do is evacuate because their numbers are dwindling by the minute. And now they're afraid of total extinction. And so what do you do when you're a terrorist and you're getting cornered? You grab a woman and you hide behind children and women. So the Dracos want to open blue beam. They want to evacuate Mimas and come here because they know humans are the manifestation cure for the bug that they created, the artificial intelligence. It's a
They need to
predatory.
collectively access the humans so that they can use the humans as a tool to eradicate this.
Actually, that's what they want to do, but right now they're in panic mode, and they want to just escape here so that they can hide behind humans. They want a human shield because they know the off-worlders together will just wipe them out, and they will not wipe out the humans because the humans have the cure for the disease that they have. It was the bloody Dracos that spread this disease across this galaxy, and
And
these
this is
guys.
what people also call the vampire virus.
Yes, and we're the ones that can manifest it to shut down, uninstall, delete.
But at the
And
moment, our consciousness has been accessed to basically self surrender our boundaries and consciousness to
by
these others.
by love and by light, by universal love with any judgment, non-judgment, but with all discernment, we open up our hearts and we become manifestors. We're the only species that can do it. That's why there's such a terrible war going on. You asked Pattie Brassard to show you the 24-hour elapsed time. I cried. Warships on fire. You can see it burning in space. Well, there's no air in space. That air is coming from inside this ship that's so large. And these species are dying to protect us, to keep the Archons from getting here. And they've got them cornered at Mimas, and they want to escape here. They no longer want to take over human beings. They just want to live now. It's down to fear and survival. So they want to open it up. They want to evacuate here and use humans as a human shield, and then start thinking about how they're going to take over. Because the AI is an it. It's not a they. The AI has taken over these stupid Dracos that never invented anything. They just stole other people's technology, and they're service to self oriented. And the only people that can cure the disease that the others have been infected with is manifestors, human beings, human species that manifest. They can literally manifest something out of nothing. And that is what human beings are capable of. That separates us from all the other creatures out there, all the other species, is that we can manifest. What took them 150 million years to do, we did it in 150.
Now, why
But
is this disclosure happening now? What do we
uh,
need to understand out of this?
Source is providing a way for us to overcome the the PPAI. The guy that did the genome map, he mapped out the genome. Well, who do you think he did first? He mapped out his own genome. Then after they got it all in, and everybody's clapping hands and saying what a great accomplishment it did, they took another DNA test. And guess what happened? A code shows up to fix the changes he made to himself. The code shows up from the planet. The planet writes a code and downloads it into him to stop him from doing what he was doing. He was genetically enhancing himself.
So
And that
that's Gaia.
code,
Are you talking to the consciousness, the
well,
so-called Gaia?
the reptilians call Mother Earth Gaia. Some people call it Sophie. We call it by what it's defined as: Mother Planet, Mother Earth, Mother Nature, whatever you want to call it. Call it by what it's defined as. Don't call Jesus by a name. Don't call God by Muhammad. Don't get caught up in the name blame game. Get caught up in calling the ultimate creator what he is by what he does. He is the ultimate creator because he speaks, or it speaks. I don't know. Male, female, I don't know. All I know is that I'm connected to the ultimate source. Well, we create gods in our own prison. And the thing is if we call the ultimate creator by what he does, by definition, his name is by what he does, we're plugging into the right whatever. Whether it's artificial, I don't know. All I know is that when I plug into source, I can manifest something out of nothing.
What I'd like to talk about now is you mentioned Archons and Dracos almost sort of simultaneously.
Alpha Dracos, in the United States, we don't have names because we don't have disclosure. Now, in Russia, in 1984, they found a book called the Schmersh Alien Race Book. And when I start talking about all these, there's so many species, like 78 species, and the guy only released 66 out of the book. When the guy that printed it out went to bring it back to him and bring the book back, and he went to meet him, and the car's upside down, that guy's dead, and the book is gone out of the back seat. And so the Russians got their book back, and it had been updated. There were notes in it that updated from 1984, and then, of course, the agent was about to get caught. He ditched the book in the field. He didn't have time to destroy it. Someone found it. Someone looked at it and said, "Look, these ETs now have names." And so
how many years after that was?
I have no idea. All I did was I went to look and see if I knew any of them. Now I know who's been torturing me all these years in S2. It's the Solipsy Ray. The Emerthers created the Solipsy Ray. Well, the Emerthers claim to be benevolent. They're the ones leading the Council of Five. So I don't know. I cannot judge.
You sent me some some pictures of ETs. Now, I think if we wanted to put that on as a separate part, and
sure.
we just have a quick. Now, do you want to say anything to finish off on the Hadron thing on this part?
Well,
bearing in mind it's come back up. There's an awful lot of people don't believe it happened, and there's an awful lot of people think that we're talking baloney.
Right, and it's not come out in the mainstream media, so they think we're full of. Okay, if you look at the operating temperature before in Celsius of the coolant water, they had set it at 50 Celsius, 100 something, 150 degrees, something like that. They set off the cutoff to protect the magnets. Once the beam got loose and where they were vacuuming out the things that we put in there, we manifested something sticky. The minute it touched the metal, it stuck to it. It could expand or contract based on pressure and need. We gave it the ability to defend itself. They would vacuum out, it would come out of the metal and expand and it just kept doing this. And we manifested that. We kept telling it what to do, and we kept telling it what to do. And it came out of a mind of a man who manifests on a daily basis. This guy does it while he sleeps, and he's such a relaxed, chilled, cool. And you just never believe this guy. I love this guy. He's like a brother to me. And he's like, this guy manifest. This guy is so much more powerful than me. And the thing is the people that you're going to show this to will put me to shame. I want them to put me to shame because they become loving and lovable, and they began to use the metagene factor they have. The weakest metagene factor can outdo me. They can outdo me because I'm not totally 100% human. That means I don't have the power you have. And the hybrids don't have the power that true Homo sapiens sapiens have. And any of us that have the metagene factor, tap into that. Love. Become loving and lovable. Plug into this power so that we can shut down this PPAI, we can uninstall it, and we can delete it. And that way we're not saving ourselves as much as we are helping the people that are fighting and dying for us right now by fighting with the
we want to talk about that in the next part. Okay, so
but that is my hope, my desire is that we as a service to others, we've got to think about all these, even though they may have committed terrible atrocities. Was it the PPAI that made them do this? Are they really like that when they're uninfected? Well, we need to find out. We just can't go out and, be like Star Trek. Oh, we're advanced. We have the prime directive. And then when things turn to shit, they pull out a bigger gun. Somewhere this crazy ass cycle has got to stop. We've got to stop killing each other for money. We've got to stop killing each other for things. We got to give up having and start thinking about being. We're more interested in having than we are being. We need to start thinking with our hearts connected to our brains and start thinking. And this is coming from a professional killer. If I can find love and love can do what it's done to me, then there's hope for the worst, vilest offender, because you're looking at a vile offender. And if I'm capable of such things, think of what you guys can do. You're far more powerful than I. And it's a group together, being sovereign individuals, keeping our free choice, keeping our opinions, keeping our religion and politics. You believe whatever you want. Let's come together, do this thing, and then we'll figure out where the chips fall once we get rid of the PPAI as a service to others. We get rid of it in each other. We get rid of it in all the species and see which ones that have to be kind of isolated because they're too violent. And we just create a place for them to hash it out amongst themselves and give them a few thousand years to evolve. We evolved. We were quite savage. And if we can evolve, what's to say the reptilians can't stop being brute beasts once the PPAI is gone?
Okay. We'll
thank you for this opportunity.
We'll really close on this part, and then we'll come back with a tea break. Well, let's hold this off to just a quick break. Okay. Right, and we'll. Okay, good. We'll see you on the other side of the cassette. Okay. What do you want? You haven't. Do you want 10 minutes? 5 past.